Watershed. Happy Sunday. It's so good to see everyone. If you are able, we would love to have you stand and worship with us. We're going to start off a little chiller today, but still worshiping hard. Sorry. Sorry, guys. I was a little awkward when I start this off. I apologize. Anyway, let's get going. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, why you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I don't have to earn it, I've always deserved it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Till I'm found, leaves the 99. I don't have to earn it, I've always deserved it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love. your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath. Sing it out. In our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only.
We are leaving crumbling buildings full of dust and full of judgment. We are leaving violent teaching from those who refuse to learn from the best of us. We are leaving crumbling buildings full of dust and full of judgment. We are leaving violent teachings from those who refuse to learn from the best of us. We are leaving crumbling buildings full of dust and full of judgment. We are leaving violent teachings, those who refuse to learn from the best of us. We are leaving. We are leaving crumbling buildings full of dust and full of judgment. We are leaving violent teaching, those who refuse to learn from the best of us.
We are seeking a holy healing, full of hope and full of justice. I've got a feeling that we're in the middle of it. I've got a feeling she'll see us to the end of it. We are seeking a holy healing, full of hope and full of justice. I've got a feeling thank you guys for being here with us during this and being present. I, today especially, could hear all of you guys, and it is the most beautiful thing when we together and with one breath and with one voice declare that we are full of hope, that we are full of justice, and that we are going to continue fighting for what we all know is right. And now, the time that the introverts hate and the extroverts love.
Whoa, not yet, Betsy.
Oh, I forgot. Whoa, hold on.
Not yet.
We do have, before we do it, there is a birthday in the house. Our very own Tommy.
Here we go. Happy birthday
to... What are we doing here, Matt? We didn't practice this. I'm just going to... pick a note.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Tommy. Happy birthday to you.
All right. Now go love on each other. Have fun.
Good morning, Watershed. Man, as an introvert, I love that extroverts do this and love it. As an introvert, I'm gonna be up here. If you don't know me, my name is Kelsey, and I'm the children's pastor here, and I love my job. Also, before I get into the boring stuff of announcements, because that's what my job is today, they don't give me a mic very often, so I'm going to take advantage. If you have any wanting you to come hang out with kids, come hang out with kids. On your super fun app, if you go to the more section, you can fill out a little thing that says, hey, I would love to come hang out with kids. Hey, look. This is Ellie, one of our volunteers, with our adorable kindergarten first graders. If you want to be like Ellie, come volunteer. I am shameless about it. I love these kids and I love this community, and we talk all the time at Watershed about the future and how we want everything to be just so, and part of that future is our kids. And they're not the future part of the church, they're the church now. It's not something that we're working toward. They're integral into what we're doing today and next week. So come be a part of it. It is so much fun, and you also get to come hang out with me. And I'm pretty fun sometimes. Okay, now on to the boring stuff. Not boring, just information. First things first, if you have not been here, or even if you have, there is a QR code to our connection card. Fill it out. There's also lots of information on our website if you have any questions. I know some of you are here for Brian Recker. Go team. So pumped. Read your book in 2 weeks. It was amazing. If you want more information about anything, go scan that QR code and take a little gander on it. There is a brunch today at Tipsy Burrow for the young adult group. I've never been, but I hear it's great. So I'm going to need some reviews from the people who are going, okay? So please come. a very exciting thing. If you are new or if you're not new and you're just like, I need more friends, I have more questions, I would love to know more about Watershed or myself, come to Preface. Preface starts on August 12th, and I've gone through it, and it was a couple things. One of the most eye-opening experiences of who I am as a human and how my faith is and what my foundations are and what I need to learn or unlearn. And also, I made really good friends out of it who are asking the same questions but also hold space for you. So come to Preface. You get to spend a whole week with Matt O'Neill, who's our lead pastor, and that's a hoot and a half. You get to hear a lot about the history of Watershed. It's a great time. So come. Shamelessly going to plug Greenhouse Volunteers one more time because that's the order of things. Please do that. Now, this is something that we talk about every week, but giving. There's a lot of things we do in Watershed that require resources. Not only like money, but time and gifts and talent, and these beautiful people up here give of their resources every week too. But if you feel so led to give to Watershed, please do. There's a lot of justice-oriented things, community things that we could not do without your help. So please give. We would love that. And the last thing is Brian Recker is here. We're pumped. It's going to be amazing. And he has a book called Hellbent, and he'll be in the back after service, and he can sign your book. You can buy a book. You can talk to him about it. But please enjoy every single minute of this space this morning. It is an honor and a privilege to be a part of this staff and to get to see your faces. I know I get to see the kids all the time, so I'm sorry if I don't know your names, but I know your child's name. That is usually how it goes, so I'm working on it. But it is a privilege to be in here and get to talk to you guys because I know that you are the backbone of who we are, what we do, why we do it, and we're so grateful. So welcome to Watershed.
Welcome. So this next song, kind of chose it for one line in the song, and we find ourselves at war on this globe. Just kind of always seems we're in one war or another. But also, I come from a very fundamental Southern Baptist upbringing, where I put on the armor of Christ and I went to war. All right. And with Brian being here and this whole book about Hellbent and how maybe we should just focus more on love and what that means, I chose this song for one line. And the line is, I've got soul, but I'm not a soldier. All right? So when we get to that part, I want the Watershed choir to just embody that. Got soul, but I'm not a soldier. Cool. When there's nowhere else to run, is there room for one more sun? One more sun. If you can hold on, if you can hold on, hold on. Cold-hearted soldier. Here we go. I got soul, but I'm not a soldier. I got soul, but I'm not a soldier. I got soul, but I'm not a soldier. I got soul, but I'm come on. Not a soldier. I got soul, but I'm 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 not a soldier. Yeah, yeah, you know you gotta help me out. Yeah, yeah, well, don't you put me on the back burner. You know you gotta help me out. Yeah, yeah, you're gonna bring yourself down. Yeah, yeah, you're gonna bring yourself down. Yeah, yeah, well, don't you put me on the back burner. You're gonna bring yourself down. Yeah, yeah, you're gonna bring yourself down. Over last all for sin. While everyone's lost, the battle is won with all these things that I have done. All these things that I have done. Can't hold on. Can't hold on. Hold on.
All right, good morning, Watershed. Is this fine? Can I steal this music stand? I don't, okay. I guess I'm preaching a series called The Worst Ideas God Never Had. They were like, so you're gonna come up right after the series bumper video. I was like, oh, there's a series bumper video, what's the series? And so I was like, I should probably watch the bumper video that's gonna like lead me in. And so I was a little nervous. I was like, maybe it won't be a good fit because the sermon is written, and so we'll watch the bumper video. And I watched it and I was like, yeah, I could work with that. The thing is, there's a lot of directions, there's a lot of bad ideas that have been put on God. I wrote a book about one of them. It's called Hellbent, How the Fear of Hell Holds Christians Back from a Spirituality of Love. Has anybody read it? Sorry, I've always kind of wanted to do that. I had a really special experience this morning. Dominique told me there's a book club that's going through your book, and they're meeting in the back right now, and I had no idea. She was like, you can just go, jump in on it. And I was so weird. I'm sorry, guys, for how awkward I was when I went in there. I'd never been in a book club that was about a book that I wrote. I didn't know how to be, and so I think I brought a bad vibe to the book club. So I apologize for that. But they seem to be enjoying it. And so I think it was going well. I wrote that book because hell was one of these ideas that deeply impacted me and my relationship with God. And I think that's a bad idea that we've put on God. And so if that's something that you're working through and you're like, I didn't even know we were allowed to not believe in that, then I wrote a book for you and I would love to get it into your hands. But that's not actually what I'm talking about this morning. But like I said, thankfully, there are a lot of bad ideas that we've put on God. And today we're going to look at a story, one of my favorite stories from the life of Jesus, where Jesus really is directly confronting through his life, through his ministry, through his healing, through just the way that he moves through the world, confronting the way that religious systems tend to sort people into categories and cast certain people aside. The way that our religious systems, which are supposed to speak for God, the one who is always out in front of us, calling us into deeper and deeper love, and yet these systems that claim to speak for him are often cutting parts of ourselves out of us and failing to make room for our humanity. And if you feel like that has been your experience of Christianity, of religion, of spirituality, then I'm sorry, that's been my experience too. And the good news for us today is that Jesus was never like that. So we're going to look at a story in Mark chapter 5, starting in verse 25. I'm going to go ahead and read it. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, if I just touch his clothes, I'll be healed. Immediately, her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. At once, Jesus realized that power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" "You see the people crowding against you," his disciples answered, "and yet you can ask, 'Who touched my clothes?'" But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, trembling with fear, and told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." So for the next few minutes this morning, I want us to reflect on this woman who had been suffering from a flow of blood for 12 years. I want us to center her faith this morning. This was a faith that made her well. Jesus says, your faith had made you well in the middle of a world that is deeply sick. And in the world that we're in right now, which can feel overwhelming, and it can feel anxiety-inducing every time I scroll my phone and am confronted with more and more bad news, I want a faith that brings wholeness and wellness into my life, and maybe you do too. This woman stands out to me because I have found in my own life that it is women like her, in other words, it is people who stand in very different social locations than myself that I am learning the most about faith from these days. I've been learning a lot about myself lately. I'm becoming more self-aware. And one of the things that I am learning is that one of the great privileges of being a man, specifically being a straight white man, is that I can kind of forget that I have a body. I can kind of forget that I have a body because society is not constantly reminding me of my body. My body is pretty much welcome and safe everywhere I go. I don't think a lot about my safety. I forget to lock my doors. I saw a tweet recently, and it said, being a man is realizing that women rehearse safety plans for situations that you never even think about. You know, I've never once been worried about being assaulted as I walk back to my car in a parking lot at night. I've never had that thought. I don't think about that. Queer people, women, people of color are constantly being reminded that they have bodies. Our society reminds them of their bodies, but rarely accommodates their bodies. And one of the most visceral reminders of this, and there are all kinds, you could take this principle in many different directions, but for the sake of this text, period bleeding might be quite a visceral reminder of this. And y'all didn't know I was going to talk about that this morning. You saw me get up here. You're like, if there's one thing that the sermon is not going to be about today, based on the way that fellow looks, it's probably not going to be about menstrual cycles. You're wrong. You know, this is something that half of humanity deals with, but you wouldn't really know that by the way that we've set up society. We kind of expect it to stay invisible. It's not supposed to be anybody's problem when it is, in fact, half of the people's problem. It's been said that if men had periods instead of women, we would live in a very different kind of world. Just exercise your imaginations for a moment. I'm sure at the bare minimum, accommodations would be made in the workplace. All over, there would be like tampons and pad dispensers in every room, free everywhere you go. You know, if this was a man problem, men would have been very quick to problem solve it. We would probably have universal health care by now if men got periods. But this awkward and inconvenient reminder of humanness is something that women are expected to deal with in silence, hiding their tampons nervously, expecting nobody to see. And I think in some ways, while this is certainly, I don't want to minimize the difficulty that it can be and the inconvenience that it can be, but I think it might also contain a gift that men miss out on. Richard Rohr points out in his brilliant book on male initiation that many ancient cultures had blood initiations for boys on their path to manhood. Circumcision is only one example of this. Across cultures, very, very common for boys to have some sort of initiation rite to become a man that involved blood. But there are almost no cultural examples across societies of blood initiations for girls because it has always been known that women are initiated into womanhood by their very own bodies. This process of suffering and blood, from menstruation to labor, all the way through menopause, this is a process that is entirely unknown to men. And although it's an inconvenient and painful process, this is an embodied path that may also be one of the reasons why women often grow to be more mature, more empathetic, and more attuned to community beyond their own ego. See, when you are reminded of the inconveniences of your own body, you are more likely to be empathetic towards the inconveniences that others may be experiencing in their bodies. When you're living in a body that society is basically built for, and you're kind of whistling and going through life like it's smooth sailing, you kind of forget that it's just not like that for everybody else. In fact, it's not like that for most people. And yet the systems and the structures of society are built for that minority of people for whom things are kind of smooth and easy. And that can actually be a curse because it actually cuts you off from the humanity that just about everybody else is experiencing in some way or another. When you are constantly reminded, however, of these inconveniences, it is easier for you to imagine what life is like in a body besides your own. I think women do that more than men. It's called empathy. Men, and those of us in privileged bodies in general, we are not forced to do this necessary and important reflection. You can kind of get away with not doing it. And you can tell who has not done it. You can tell by the way that they want to structure society. And of course, because the rules of patriarchal history are written by men who did not go through this process of menstruation that I've been talking about, rather than see that process as sacred and life-giving as it is, it has often been viewed with disgust and distance. Many examples of this, but just one of them for the sake of this text, is that in the Jewish law, a menstruating woman was declared unclean, which meant that she was not permitted to worship in the temple until 7 days had passed from her bleeding, according to Leviticus 15. And again, one would have to wonder whether or not a regulation like this would have ever existed if the male priests who were in charge of the temple experienced period blood rather than the women who were barred from priestly offices. Now, this observation that I'm making is not anti-Jewish at all. It does not suggest that Christians have been any better at empowering women, okay? I'm making the point, actually, that the norms of the patriarchy have shaped every major world religion and still shape the world that we're in today. Now, this ritual impurity, unclean, was not typically a huge problem. It wasn't a moral stain. It wasn't like, oh, you're a bad person because you have period blood. This was not a moral sin. It was sort of a way of structuring life for the health of the community. And again, it was normally resolved in a short period of time, usually 7 days. But for this woman, it had been 12 years. She had been suffering from a flow of blood. That's what the NRSV says. The King James Version that I was raised on, anybody else? Famously called her a woman having an issue of blood. And context clues imply that this was menstrual bleeding that she was dealing with, but she had a condition where it hadn't stopped in 12 years. Not only that, not only was she not permitted to enter into the temple worship because of this condition, but anyone who touched a bleeding woman during her cycle also became ritually unclean. So many people, out of concern that they didn't want to be barred from worship, so they would have avoided touch with her completely. So 12 years of exclusion from worship, which is a lot more than just going to church. We're talking about the social life of her community. 12 years of exclusion from the social life of her community. 12 years of exclusion from regular human touch. 12 years of blood. The womanist theologian Will Gaffney imagined what life would be like for this woman, saying she never felt clean. There were stains on her clothes, on her chair, on her bed. She was tired of bleeding, and just plain tired. She was also broke. In Mark's telling, we read, she had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors. She spent all she had, and instead of getting better, she just grew worse. And so when she sought out Jesus, this rabbi who was said to work miracles, it's actually incredible to me that she had any faith left at all. And yet she still seemed convinced that there was a God who desired her restoration. I want to say a brief word on the healing miracles of Jesus. For those of us who may have gone through a process of deconstruction, reevaluating some of our earlier faith beliefs, the healing miracles might seem hard to believe. You know, we tend to love and gravitate towards the Jesus who eats and drinks with sinners and calls out hypocritical religious systems. But Jesus, the miracle healer, might strike us as a bit superstitious, maybe even unnecessary. But healers were a common part of the social landscape of their world, and Jesus actually fits right in with what we know of the time period, that there were many healers in that day, and actually Jesus' notoriety as a prominent healer is one of the few things that even secular historians agree about the historical Jesus. Personally, I don't find any difficulty in believing that the supernatural was at work in the person of Jesus. There is a whole lot in this world that I don't understand. But I also don't think that we're required to receive every miracle story as perfectly literal or as conveying the kind of history that could be photographed. Many of the miracles are clearly meant to be loaded with symbolic meaning. When we read these stories, what I do and what I would encourage you to do is instead of honing in solely on the question of, did this really happen? Like, does stuff like this really happen? Could this have possibly happened? I think a more helpful question for those of us who actually want to have an encounter with the divine, who want to know what does it mean for us to be people of faith today, is to instead ask, what does this mean? And what does this tell us about God? You see, almost all of Jesus' healings were not just for sick people in general. They were almost always for people who were also experiencing social exclusion. They were in the category of sinner. Jesus was known to be the friend of sinners, and in that day, sinner was kind of just what you said about somebody who didn't fit the norm, the mold, the way that things were supposed to be. And Jesus went and sought out those kind of people, and many of those kinds of people were also dealing with various diseases because their religious system was actually set up to create sinners, boundaries and laws that created in-groups and out-groups. There had to be a group called sinners so that there could be a group called righteous. And unfortunately, as then, as now, that is one of the main things that people use religion for, to create those kinds of groups. This is what many people use Jesus for. Even though Jesus himself, the real Jesus, was always the force breaking down those boundaries and those categories and those binaries. But for many people today, Jesus is actually just a mascot for the in-group. Who is Jesus to me? He's the one that assures me that I'm in so that other people are out. I'm safe while other people are damned. I'm superior. But Jesus is not a mascot for our supremacy, and he does not exist to be claimed or to be owned. And you can be sure that whenever your relationship with Jesus is making you feel separate or superior to someone else, then you are not actually in relationship with Jesus. That's not who Jesus ever is. That is a false Christ. That is a manifestation of your own ego. That is something that you're clinging to feel a little bit better than others. But our safety and security in God never comes from superiority or supremacy. It comes from communion. It comes from our oneness with one another and with God. The real Jesus was always the one shattering those illusions of supremacy and calling us back to our humanity, into our connection with one another. He did this when he taught. He did this when he ate with sinners. And yes, he also did this when he healed. He healed outcast lepers who were also excluded from the community. He healed blind beggars that many people assumed, what did this man do to be in that condition? He was always reminding people of the dignity that they had as children of God, even though that dignity wasn't being recognized by the society they lived in. When Jesus heals someone, he's also always reminding them that they're not actually on the outside like they've been told. There actually are no outsiders to God. God is for everybody, especially for the people that the power brokers are always trying to gatekeep God from. And this bleeding woman, she seems to believe this. Because how is she still showing up after 12 years? How is she still reaching out after 12 years? How is she still thinking after 12 years that maybe God might still be for me? That's called faith. Despite her marginalized status, being both a woman and being a ritually impure woman, and despite 12 years of struggle and blood and disappointment, she never let go of the faith that if there's a God at all, then that God is in the restoration business. If there's a God at all, then God is a healer. If there's a God at all, then God is love. And that God is just as much for me as for anybody else. She believed that, and she refused to stop believing it. She probably clung to age-old promises like this one, which was given to God's people in exile, Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." Even though that verse has become a coffee mug cliche, I can see the fierce power in a woman like that believing that promise for herself and choosing to believe that God was for her and that she was God's beloved daughter, regardless of how the world might be classifying her. I see her faith, this faith from the margins. And I recognize that those of us like me who live in privileged bodies may have a different relationship to faith than someone like this woman. People keep asking me this terrible question over the last couple of years, ever since Trump's second term. It's been a rough go. And I don't know why people think I have a good answer to this question, but people keep asking me some version of this question. Don't ask me this question. I will be mad at you. I hate this question. What's giving you hope right now? So rude, right? To even assume that I would have any of it. Do you have? I don't know. Oof. But one of my answers that I keep coming back to is that my relationships with my black, brown, and queer friends are keeping me grounded right now because they remind me of something really, really important. That none of this shit is new. You know what I mean? My friend Tamise is a female-presenting, non-binary black person. And for Tamise, with the 2024 election, times didn't just get difficult. Anybody else? Where you're kind of looking around and people are like, wow, things are getting hard. And you're like, things done been hard. Some of us need that energy in our lives. We need to remember that Trump 2024 is not the first experience of an unwelcoming world. Tamis grew up in IHOP. Any of you familiar with IHOP as an evangelical, International House of Prayer? If you grew up in any kind of evangelical thing, just kind of, that was their evangelical thing. And they have always had to fight for every inch of respect and dignity in a world that was not built for their humanity. They have always lived in a world that had plans to harm them, not to prosper them. And in a world like that, it takes great faith to believe that God might be different than that. And so when I'm expressing some sense of, wow, it's bad out here, Tamis has several times gently reminded me that for some of us, it's always been bad. It's always been exile. It has always seemed absurd to believe in plans for a hope and a future in a world of violence and erasure. And that has been their embodied experience every day of their life. Some of you, that's true. And for those of you that is true for, I think you have a gift to give us. I think that you might have a gift of faith if you're still showing up in a world like that. So in faith, this woman stretches out her hand to Jesus in the crowd. What a radical thing for her to let her body take up space in this way. Her bleeding body, her inconvenient body, her not fit for polite company, socially awkward body. This one who should not be touched dares to reach out and touch Jesus. Jesus says, the power has gone out of me. He feels the energy shift. I don't know what that means. I think Tommy could probably explain it to you. They're like an energy worker. That's beyond my pay grade. I think Jesus might have more in common with Tommy than with me. So take it up with Tommy with what that's talking about. But there's something really intimate in it, isn't there? The power has gone out of me. Something has shifted. Amongst the smelly, noisy crowd, Jesus perceives her. He directs his attention to her, which is to say he loves her. And she's startled at being identified. She had hoped to go unnoticed. And this part of the passage actually stands out to me because I recognize she seems afraid to be noticed by Jesus. And I thought, that's odd. I would love to be noticed by Jesus. I like to be identified. Could you tell that about me? I don't mind being up here. Listen, that's a privilege. There are people that go through the world afraid to be identified because, again, the world wasn't built for them, and being identified is dangerous. To be singled out is dangerous. I've had to recognize that's just a really helpful, important shift. And in this moment, she wanted to be unnoticed because the world is dangerous to her. Do you feel that? Is Jesus going to be dangerous to me? I've been noticed now by the most powerful man in the room. But he's warm to her. And his first word to her is daughter. He names her as family. This one, the unclean one, who touched him and supposedly brought uncleanness to Jesus, it doesn't work that way at all. That's one of those bad ideas that God doesn't want you putting on them. No. Who God is the one who brings healing and wholeness and restoration to us. Daughter, your faith has healed you. He calls her family. She is no longer socially ostracized. And this is how healing happens. As we become family to one another, we are healed in community. We are healed through our connection with one another and with God. In many ways, the greater trauma that this woman was dealing with was not her blood, but the world's reaction to her blood. As I think about that phrase, a woman with an issue of blood, it occurs to me that it wasn't really the woman that had the issue with blood. It was the men that had the issue with blood. It was the whole world that had an issue with blood. But you know who doesn't have an issue with blood? Jesus does not have an issue with her blood. God does not have an issue with her blood. Jesus does not have an issue with her humanity, with her messes. Jesus is happy to take them on. That's what he's there for. This is what healing looks like. Recognizing that we are family, that we are embraced, that we are accepted, that there is no issue with the way that we've been created. There's no issue with your humanity. Something surprising, after she's healed, Jesus says it's not his power, but he says it's your faith that has healed you. Not like I healed you with my strength. He says your faith is what healed you. Her persistence, her agency are what heal her. Refusing to be defined by the straitjackets of the world, refusing to let the world's issues with me become my issues with myself. Jesus doesn't rebuke her for taking up space or for breaking the no touching while bleeding rule. He celebrates her. He celebrates her faith. He celebrates the fact that she says, screw this rule, I'm touching Jesus. He wants us to love our bodies because he loves our bodies. Jesus doesn't have the issues that with us that we have with one another. He's not put off by our blood. He's not put off by our insecurities. He's not put off by our messiness. Jesus came into this world to be touched. That's what I love about Jesus. That's the beauty of the incarnation. You know, the church has often been scandalized by women and by touch and by bodies and by blood. And how ironic, because the very message of the incarnation is that the body of a woman becomes the home of God. Jesus would not have come into this world at all were it not for an issue of blood. It was the very process of menstruation and labor and bleeding and birth that brought God to us in the first place. Jesus shows us a God who does not draw back from our messes. He does not draw back from our bodily fluids, not from the things that supposedly make us unclean. And this is why I love believing in Jesus. Sometimes people still ask me, because I've gone through this process of deconstruction, they ask me, do you believe that Jesus is God? And I am happy to say yes, but I also say I don't really know what that means, but yes. And one of the things that I know that means, you know, it's a mysterious belief. But one of the reasons I still claim this belief is because what I really believe is that God is like Jesus. Like, what is God like? I believe that Jesus reveals God to us. And if God is like Jesus, then that means God welcomes our touch. God desires us to take up space. God welcomes our bodies. The bodies that we might classify as unclean are not unclean to God. God is the one who welcomes every part of us. Well, what do we do with this story? I want to give just a couple ways to respond. First of all, a word to the church. I think a story like this causes us to consider what kind of world, what kind of community are we building? Is it one that honors and welcomes bodies like Jesus, even the ones that society deems inconvenient? Jesus' kingdom was a kingdom from the bottom up. He said the last shall be first. It's the opposite of the way that we structure the world. It's not trickle-down economics. It's trickle-up economics. He says if there's a problem, we're starting with the most vulnerable to solve it. We're not going to let the people up here solve it. That'll never work. They can't see the problem properly. They've never experienced it. His kingdom starts with the last, and that's the way that we build the beloved community. It starts with who's being left out. That's why this room is surrounded with pride flags and trans flags. Some people are like, oh, it's a lot of flags. What are we doing? Have you heard people like that? It's like, oh, why are we making that the whole thing? It's because the world rejects these people, and so that's where we start. We start with the people that the world is erasing, because God doesn't do that. Does our community welcome disabled bodies, queer bodies? The church should be the place that is questioning what society is discounting as normative. You know, I've been thinking a lot about this word normal, what the norms are. It occurred to me that, you know, most white supremacists don't think that they're white supremacists. They don't. They just believe that they're normal. They believe that they're normal for being white. I'm just a normal white person. Right? But that's what supremacy really looks like. That's what supremacy really looks like. The ability to define yourself and your kind of person as normal and every other kind of body as outside the norm. They're the different ones, right? Like Captain America is a superhero, Black Panther is a black superhero, right? When your kind of person doesn't need an adjective because it's just normal, that's supremacy. Christian supremacy does the exact same thing as white supremacy, right? What is a pagan? What's a pagan? Just somebody who's not a Christian. Everybody else that's not like us. Christian is baseline. Everything else doesn't meet our baseline. Hetero supremacy says, well, I'm just normal. I'm just straight. I'm just normal. If you're not straight, what are you? You're queer. You're abnormal. And that's why this current campaign, I don't know if you've seen this campaign against the word queer. Over the last few weeks, there have been articles in both the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal by gay men, gay white men, who are basically writing articles saying something to the effect of, I'm not queer, I'm gay, and that difference matters. That was the headline of one of the articles. And the idea is, listen, being gay is normal, and defining yourself as queer is like you're trying to challenge the norms, and that's different, that's icky, that's bad. But queer identity is so important to me, even as a straight person, because it is really a screw you to every form of supremacy. I love my queer neighbors who embrace that term for themselves because they're basically saying, yeah, I'm not normal. I don't need to contort myself to fit your supremacist system that ranks lives in order of importance in some sort of hierarchy where you're normal and at the top, and anyone who's not like you doesn't meet your criteria is at the bottom. That's not what God does. In that sense, the church is actually very queer. It should be the place that declares that as long as there is this need to create an outcast group, to say that those are the ones that we separate from, those are the unclean ones, as long as society is doing that, we are meant to find ourselves among the queers, the weirdos, the outcasts, the rejects, the unclean, and standing there in solidarity with them because that is where Jesus always was. That spiritual solidarity was at the heart of the ministry of Jesus. They killed him for it. I do believe that this church puts that beautifully on display. It's one of the reasons I love coming here. But I think this story also just has a word for us as individuals who are looking for encouragement in our own faith journey. And as the band comes up, I would ask you to maybe just consider your own faith journey in a moment where so many people are poorly representing God in the world. I think you know what I mean. There were some examples of it on the screen in that bumper video. Maybe you felt tempted to throw away the concept altogether. I can't tell you how many Christians I've talked to over the last year who have told me, I'm a little embarrassed to call myself a Christian right now. Anybody resonate with that? Where you're just like, I don't know that I want people to know because I don't want to be associated with those people, right? What do we do with this? What do we do with faith? If anyone was ever tempted to give up on faith, I am sure that it was this bleeding woman. How do we have faith like this woman, a faith that Jesus commends? For many of us, it may lie in this simple confidence that she had to take up space, knowing that God delights in us, God delights in our presence. Every part of you is welcome here. Her faith was that she persisted in believing that she was God's daughter just as much as everybody else, in believing that God was love and that love desires to be touched. Perhaps faith might be that simple for us this morning, knowing that we can always touch God, even with our trembling, untouchable hands. And if that's you, I want to pray for you right now as we close. God, would you help us to be a community that puts the love of Jesus on display, the kind of love that says we want to build a world where everybody is welcome. We don't want to back away from people that the world has labeled unclean or weird or queer or sinner. Any of the labels that we put on people in order to categorize people and rank lives. We recognize that many of the rules by which society lives are made up, and they weren't made up by you. They don't reflect your heart, which is always leaving the 99, like we sang this morning, always going after the one. If that one is in this room this morning, that one who struggles to believe that you are a God with plans to prosper them, not to harm them, plans for a hope and a future. God, it is sometimes difficult to believe that that is true. When the world is putting labels on us, help us to not believe those things about ourselves. Help us to have an overarching, deeper truth that is driven so deep into our souls, nobody can snatch it away, that I am God's beloved child. That was the message that you spoke over Jesus in his baptism. You are my beloved son with whom I am well pleased. You spoke that over Jesus before he had healed anybody, before he forgave anybody, before he preached a single sermon, before he did anything at all. He started his ministry. The message that launched him into the world to change it forever was so simple. It was that he was beloved and that you delighted in him. And that same thing that was true about Jesus is true about every single one of us in this room. Help us to know it. Help us to believe it. And as a result, help us to step out into this world as deeply loved people, taking up space without apology, because we are your beloved sons, your beloved daughters, your beloved children, just as much as anybody else. Thanks be to God. Amen.
All this pain, I wonder if I'll ever find my way. I wonder if my life could really change at all. All this earth, could all that is lost ever be found? Could a garden come up from this ground at all? You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. All around, life is springing up from this old ground. Out of chaos, life is being found in you. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful come to church, Watershed. You all are beautiful and amazing. Please don't forget, Brian will be in the back selling books,
If
signing
you are
autographs.
interested in
if you're
these
interested,
books.
yeah. And if you want to line up by what was it, by
The beloved sign over here. So start the line over here, back towards there, so we don't have a big crowd of people. That would be wonderful.
Have a wonderful week. You all are beautiful, and I love you all.